Welcome to the Foul Play YouTube channel.
Welcome, everyone, to our very first Foul Play podcast. In this podcast, what we're going to do is we're going to go right back at the beginning, and have a look at Stephen Avery, his early life and time. And the aim of the podcast is to keep it casual. And we're going to have a look at a series of pictures, and we're going to have a round the table discussion. And first of all, guys, before we start our podcast, and welcome to all the listeners, of course, I'd like to introduce our team for tonight. My name is Dr. Silkman. Guys, who else have we got?
BB's here.
Big
Hey,
Jeff
everyone.
here.
Yeah, Lily here.
Sammy.
And Zoe.
Beautiful. Okay, well, the crew's all here, which is fantastic. And look, guys, before we do start the podcast, the official podcast, it is important that we do address something before we start. And that is, I think it's pretty obvious now that we are no longer RD researchers. We are now foul play researchers. Due to artistic differences, we have parted ways with Rubber Ducky, and we, of course, wish her all the very best, don't we, guys?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
We
Absolutely.
wish her,
Absolutely.
Yes.
we wish her the very best in her future endeavors, and from the bottom of my heart, I know that I enjoyed our chapter together. We did a lot of fantastic work, but really the main focus in my heart is to keep on going with the Stephen Avery, Brendan Dassey case. I feel that we are so close to some good stuff happening. Guys, what do you think?
Oh, yeah. And I'm
I
very
totally agree.
looking forward to tomorrow.
I
Yes.
think we all are. I think we all are. So, guys, are we happy to start off with slide number 1?
Okay.
Yes.
Beautiful. So the way the podcast is going to run, we've got a series of slides, and these basically are pictures from MAM. And there's minimal words, and what we're going to do is we're going to have just casual discussions about really the background of Stephen Avery's early life and how we find ourselves in the current situation. So, guys, if we have a look at slide 1, does anyone want to make any comments?
You can kind of, it's the picture of all his faces, and you can kind of see the double in his eyes when he's a little kid. He's got that double make hair look in his eyes. Yes.
Beautiful. Do you think he's a troublemaker, a potential troublemaker?
Oh, yeah, a little bit. Yeah, you can kind of see that little double make hair look in his eyes.
Feistiness.
A bit of a cheeky grin.
Yes, yes, very much.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
In his eyes, too. Yeah.
Yeah. And it, to me, it really encapsulates a lot in his, especially his very early life.
The top roll and the bottom roll is very drastic to one another. Yes.
Huge. And as you can see, he looks like a happy kid, a happy teenager. A lot of his family members, including his cousin, have said that Stephen was always laughing and smiling and carrying on like a pork chop. And, you know, he got married too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, very young.
So, yeah. He
And
was
bit
quite young.
off a ready-made family when he started out too.
That's right.
Yeah, he did. And guys, you are very right. Look at the contrast in the pictures down below, and it goes to show how life can turn very quickly, huh, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
One
His
wrong
eyes-
mistake, one wrong
Yeah,
argument.
His eyes look a lot more jaded in the bottom, the older pictures. His eyes aren't quite so.
The mug shots, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like the life has been sucked out of him, huh?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable. So it's amazing how just one slide can just encapsulate both sides of the coin, huh?
Mm.
So scary. Guys, are we happy to move on to slide 2, unless anyone wants to make any more comments of slide 1?
No.
No.
Good.
Everyone's happy?
Yes.
Yep.
Now, who's here from the US?
BB,
Myself,
me.
BB.
Sammy.
Okay. Zoe, where are you from?
I'm from Slovenia.
And I'm from Australia, which is a long way from the US. But guys, the reason for this picture, can anyone tell me what Wisconsin is all about? If you were to go to Wisconsin and Manitowoc, what would you find there, guys?
Corrupt
Hey, go ahead,
police.
BB.
I figured I'd be quiet and let you all answer.
Well, Wisconsin's probably most famous for cheese. If you think
Right.
about it, United States.
Oh, yeah.
Cheese is
Okay,
their
so
product.
Cheese
There's
heads.
so there's a big dairy industry in Wisconsin,
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
and my
I think
understanding is
they take our driver's license if we don't eat a certain amount of dairy in a week. We're just not allowed to have a driver's license here.
You know, when I think of Wisconsin before all of this, I think of Amish, Mennonite, stuff like that.
Yeah, we have a lot of those. Yes.
fantastic.
Horse and buggies still down the road with the cars.
Yeah.
In many small towns around here, some of the bigger towns too, get them
Yes.
in.
Yes. No, that's incredible. I think it's important that our listeners have got an understanding of where Stephen's family came from.
A lot of
and-
farmland.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. And my
Small
understanding is
towns
this,
with farmland surrounding each small town.
a lot of dairy farmers as well.
Oh yeah, yes.
Beautiful.
A lot of milk trucks running in the evening and in the morning. You see milk trucks on the road.
Right. Fantastic. So, guys, if we head over to picture number 3, this is looking at Stephen's parents' business, the Avery Auto Salvage Yard. Guys, does anyone want to make any comments? Is this unusual or usual in Wisconsin? What can you tell me, guys, about the salvage yard?
I think there's a lot to say about the salvage yard. I think probably one of the things that we should have mentioned in the previous slide is that Wisconsin is extremely rich in minerals.
Oh, good point. Good point.
And the salvage yard itself is surrounded very much by quarries, which are mining these minerals up. It's extremely valuable land from a mineral perspective. But I think the Averys have a lot of pride in their family business.
Yes, excellent point.
Despite the fact it started in the I can't quite remember by the father Alan Avery. Under probably a lot of pressure to sell to the local quarries, they've maintained that junkyard, which probably a lot of people view as an eyesore. Would be my perspective.
Yeah.
Well, the good thing about it is it's off the road. It's not on the main road. It's off Avery Road, so you don't really see it from the main road when you're driving by.
Right.
You see the sign leading into it.
Bus drivers. There's certain bus drivers who have excellent vision.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we'll be talking a lot about bus drivers later on, I'm sure of it. So, would there actually be many salvage yards in Wisconsin?
Yes, but this is a quite big lot. This is a rather large.
I believe about 40 acres in total.
And it had in its day it had lots of cars to choose from. So it would have gotten lots of good business.
Yeah, pretty successful.
Yes. As far as junkyards go here, yes, it is among the biggest. Yes.
Right.
Or was.
Right. And do any of you guys live close to Wisconsin?
I'm in it.
You're in a big
Yeah,
in the
I'm in
thick
it.
of it.
Yeah, I'm in it neck deep. Yeah.
right. The way you responded is you did it in a very incognito manner. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we won't ask any questions, but you can see here that the place is full of cars. I believe at some stage there are around about over 3,000 vehicles, and most of his family, I believe, live on the actual salvage yard. Is that correct?
Yes,
I
except
believe
for
so.
That
Earl
was correct at
hasn't.
the
Most of
time.
the time as an adult, Earl hasn't lived there. I do believe he's always lived off
Right.
site.
Okay. So we've basically got his mother, his father, his brother, and his sister, and a
For a long
nephew.
time, his sister, yeah.
Right, and nephews that live on the property as well.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. All right then.
Chuck's and Barb's, yeah.
We should probably
Right.
put a family tree up there at some point, so we know
Yeah.
who's who, because Chuck has sons that are older and Barb has sons.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So they've got many extended families. Is that correct?
It
Yes.
sounds like it, yes. Extensive.
Kind of a big family tree, too, yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
All right then. Okay.
Compared
So
to
guys,
mine, very big, yeah.
yes. So the point I'm trying to make, and I think Jeff summed it up beautifully, it is bang smack in rich mining part of the county. Is that correct? There's a lot of
Yeah.
quarries. There's a lot of
Yeah.
quarries around that place. All right then. Very, very interesting. So if we have a look at
Some farmers
yeah.
here, when they're selling their farms,
Yes.
aren't even selling the mineral rights. We know a guy who bought a farm, and he does not have any right to dig any mineral out of it.
Right.
Wow.
Okay.
None, because
And now,
the original owner held the mineral rights to the land, because the land
right.
is and sold the farm, but owns the dirt under it.
Right. Okay. Now, guys, in terms of minerals, what are we talking about? Jeff, do you know what type of minerals are around that area?
I think one of the things I get is magnets.
Oh,
And now the big craze is silicone sand for fracking. They're getting most of
right.
that, digging it right out of Wisconsin and shipping it out. We have more mining the sand than we have fracking going on here, because our
Right.
sand is going everywhere to frack. It's that silicon sand.
Right. Okay.
And they're taking off hillsides right now and leveling the ground, taking out all the
Right.
sand. Yes, they're
Right.
literally changing the landscape currently.
So would it be a fair statement to say that potentially there are others that are looking at the salvage yard to potentially turn it into a mining site?
You
I
would think so. For
I
all of
would,
the digging going around it, I would think so.
yeah.
Yeah. On all four sides of the yard is owned by one company, and that's what
Right.
they're into.
Right. Interesting. All right, guys, are we happy to go to slide number 4?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So, I mean, to me, that looks like a normal, happy young boy. And you can see his family. When you see that family photo, guys, what's your impression of that shot? What's the immediate thought that comes to your mind?
A close family.
I think.
No,
Go ahead.
normal family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Nothing out of the ordinary.
No.
So
Very typical, and I see loving, family members. I don't know. It's just it does nothing in there. I mean, the kids look happy. Mom and dad look happy.
Yep. Yep. There's a lot of commentary that a lot of people have said that family tended to stay by themselves and essentially live on the salvage yard and not really interact with the overall community. Is that a fair assessment?
I think so.
From what I've heard, yeah, there seemed to be a big
Right.
problem with them fitting in.
Right. Okay. But mainly their whole families are on the salvage yard. They've got the salvage yard business. And from my understanding, in the early days, business was good. Is that the impression you guys got?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Fantastic. Fantastic. If we look at slide 5,
Before we move,
of course.
just really quickly, since we are taking it from the beginning and hoping to catch, people who just might be newly interested in man, maybe we should tell everyone who the people are in the picture on the bottom.
Yep.
Moving from left to right is Dolores Avery.
Yes.
Yes.
That's Mama.
The next one would be Barb.
Yeah.
Barbara Avery. The next one sitting larger with the glasses leaning backward, that'd be Charles or Chuck Avery.
Oh, okay.
In the middle. And then there's Stephen, obviously. And then Alan Avery would be on the right in that very stylish sweater.
Earl's not even born yet.
Earl's probably not even born yet, yes.
And I did notice one thing.
Yes.
It's as if Chuck already has Steve in handcuffs because he's holding his wrist.
Oh my goodness.
Now, BB, we're not going to talk about controversy stuff already, right? But that's now to me that looks like a typical happy family.
Mm.
And if we have a look at slide number 5, that's during his teenage years. Now, he looks like a happy guy to me. Most of the photos that I've seen, he's been a happy lad and always got a smile on his face. Would you say he would be a practical joker?
Yeah.
I think so. I think he didn't take life too serious, and one of those kind of friends you have when you're a kid that's like, hey, I had a friend one time when I was young. I pouted all the time. And one day he said, every time I see you, you got your chin down. He's like, why don't you, pick your chin up? And, he was reminding me, don't take life too serious. And he was just all the time, everything was good. And I kind of see that there. Yeah.
I heard a lot of stories that when he was young, he used to go with his friends in the car yard and just hang around the cars, get a battery, put on the radio, and have a really good time. And the amazing thing is, Stephen always said that his family life was good. He didn't have any regrets. He never said anything bad about anyone. He loved life. Would that be a fair assessment, guys?
Yeah.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Exactly.
And especially when they were younger, it seemed like they were all pretty close knit. Maybe not so much in later years.
I think it's also fair to say that even though business was good, I would not put them as an upper middle class family. I mean, I still think, especially at the beginning, they were more what you'd call lower middle class, kind of poor.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think part of that has to do with societal stuff right there. That's all that is.
Yeah,
But how many kids got to grow up in that atmosphere, and basically the world was their oyster. They were in a world all their own,
Yeah. You imagine, right? You're a little kid and you've got thousands of cars you can play in.
Yeah,
it's like a different universe.
Hell yeah.
It's like a different
series
universe.
of forts, a non-ending series of forts.
Yeah.
Good point.
That's a kid's paradise.
I know I've reached a certain age when I look at the picture on the right. It's obviously snowing around the back. He's wearing short sleeves. I'm saying, put on a jacket, please, Stephen, for God's sakes.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of that goes on here. We were discussing that the other day about how many big guys we see wearing shorts, flip-flops, and T-shirts during winter and snow.
Yeah. And the other thing, of course, is that Wisconsin has a lot of snow, right, guys?
Oh, yeah. I got enough. I could send it to y'all.
Yeah. So, in other words, the salvage yard will be under snow for several months of the year. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So one would imagine that business will be relatively slow in terms of selling car parts, maybe not for crashes and stuff, but maybe going into the yard because it'll all be covered with snow, right?
They shovel it out. I mean,
Okay.
they work.
Okay.
Yeah, they shovel it
Okay.
out.
I think it would be kind of a I really really need this part at that in the winter time, you know.
Yes.
So business, I
Yes.
don't think it's quite as
Actually,
busy.
they're pretty busy. I've needed more parts during winter than because
Well,
everything
you
breaks.
figure if you're
Sometimes.
if
It got so
you're
cold
having
this
problems with your
January.
heater or
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
It got so
Yes.
cold this January. Everybody's car, my whole family's cars broke. All
Broke
like
down.
within
Yeah.
weeks of each other.
Radiators
The
don't do well
cat's
in cold
ears
weather.
froze off.
Yeah.
The cat's
Yeah.
ears froze off. That's how we got the cat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very cold this January and February. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Unbelievable.
we needed parts,
Yeah.
you know.
So guys, would you say it's a fair assessment that life, okay, was tough, but it was manageable. It was doable. They're a happy family.
Yes.
They're making money.
I think so.
They're working.
And I
They're
think they
hard.
grew up that way. So to them, that was
Yes.
life. It wasn't tough. It was life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent point.
Just like a farm
Excellent.
kid has to get the cows in, whether
Yeah.
it snows or not. They need to be
Yes.
milked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent point. Excellent point. And I think that early life that we've just gone through is so important to understand that perspective, because people who live in different parts of the world, we don't really know
Some
that
people's never
life.
seen a junkyard.
No. And we've got junkyards here, of course, in Australia, but probably not to that scale. That's huge. That's a very big junkyard,
Yeah.
and it's the way of life, right? If you
It
can
looks
find
like
a
it.
cheap part.
It's a
Yeah,
very
yeah,
lucrative business. It's a very
yeah,
lucrative business.
yeah. Fantastic. All
Broken
right,
cars
guys.
are
So
everywhere, and people are
yeah,
always needing parts to fix them.
so essentially, with that salvage yard, they're also on a police scanner. Is that correct? If there's a traffic accident, they've got
Well,
trucks
they
and vehicles.
definitely were. They definitely
Yeah,
were in the beginning
I would think
before
so,
all the big
especially if they
trouble.
have a wrecker. Yeah.
They were
yeah,
because they were getting the tows from the state patrol
Yep.
yes.
in that area. Yes, with their
Right,
wrecker.
fantastic.
Yes.
Fantastic. All right. So they did a multitude of business activity at the salvage yard.
Yeah, I would also suspect they have multiple police scanners. Everyone
Yeah.
probably has their own. There's one in the office. There's probably mobile ones in the
Yeah.
vehicles themselves.
Now, guys, there's nothing nefarious in having a police scanner, is there?
My grandmother
No.
used to
No,
have.
especially not in that business.
Exactly. That's what I was
Yeah.
gonna say.
Yeah. I mean, if you own a wreckers and you go out to accidents and get cars, you need to know what's happening, right? So having a police scanner is nothing nefarious. That's
Nope.
perfectly normal for a
I
wrecker.
have several friends that have them. They do no nefarious business.
Now,
Yeah.
BB, you don't happen to have one yourself by any chance, do you?
No. Yeah.
I know Zoe's got one, but she won't admit it.
I have three.
Three of them.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, guys.
Is there
Yeah,
one
of
thing I can
course.
point out about the yard is,
Yes.
or the family, I should say, is they, no, they may not be rich, but they're not hurting for money. They
Yes.
choose to live a certain lifestyle.
Okay.
And that is not, to be owning any fancy houses or whatever, but they do have
Yes.
land elsewhere. They do have, cabins and
Oh,
boats
excellent point.
and toys.
Prioritized it differently. Yeah.
Yeah. So, just they're not poor by any means, but they're not rich, but they got their toys.
Yes.
And they choose to live.
They've
Yep.
got cabins at Crivets. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So they've got their life organized in their own fashion and in their own way, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Guys, are we happy to look at slide number 6? And slide number 6, I want to hear your comments.
This is looking like the beginning of his mischief.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Who wants to make a comment?
It would be remiss of us to go on much longer without mentioning that Stephen's IQ is much lower than average.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
True.
70.
So
Especially at this time frame, he had tested out at high school at 70.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's a lot easier to fall in with the wrong crowd and make poor decisions, especially as a
Yeah.
young man. He probably could have used a little bit more
Guidance.
throttling. Guidance, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Supervision.
because his coping skills would not have been up to par,
Yeah.
in how he would handle situations.
Yep. Okay. So, he did some petty crimes, and he was also involved in the burning of a cat. But it
Yeah.
wasn't just him. Apparently, it was a group of friends. BB, you want to make any more comments on that?
Oh, I hate that fucking cat. I've heard about that cat nonstop. Yes, it was a family pet, and yes, they did douse it in gas and oil, and yes, it did get tossed on the fire. Yes, it did burn to death.
And wasn't it a Fabian who actually admitted to throwing it on the fire? Stephen confessed to being a part of it, and it's often
Yes.
brought up to him by the guilters that he threw the cat in the fire. Now, he was responsible for dousing the cat,
Yes.
but
Right, it was actually the guy who turned himself in.
threw it
that
on.
had
Yeah.
thrown the cat. He felt horrible afterwards and felt extreme remorse and
But
turned
but-
himself in and Steve in
Yeah.
the process. Yes.
yeah.
I think
we-
also we need to point out, though, that anything that Stephen did wrong, he's like, I did it.
So it's up to
Fantastic.
him.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Fantastic. That see the cross that says guilty?
Yep.
He
Yeah.
he admitted to all his crimes.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
he had an attitude of, well, I've done the crime, I do the time, I get on with life. He
Yep.
he
Yep.
never he didn't complain. He admitted when he did things wrong, and he even said, look, I hung out with the wrong crowd. Right?
Mhm.
Now, we just talked about his early family life. He doesn't look like the college boy, dressed up in a suit. He's just a ragtag, run around, have a good time type of kid. And I would imagine his friends would be the same. Would they would
Right.
enjoy it.
Right.
They would
Yes.
enjoy a
I
drink.
would think so.
A bit of tomfoolery and mucking around. But he did do minor crimes. He was involved in mistreatment of an animal, but he paid the price. Guys,
Mhm.
do we all agree?
Yes.
He,
Oh, yes.
he,
And he was
he-
always more than happy to pay for his crimes.
correct. He admitted his crimes. All right. So he's not a perfect individual. And how many people in America do you think would be involved in crimes like this? A couple of 100,000? A million?
This is
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably a couple
So in other words,
100,000.
yeah. So in other
Teenagers
words,
at any given time, young adults, teenagers,
yeah.
family members, whatever. Everybody's got
Yeah.
a few here and there.
I mean, keep your hand down if no one ever did anything silly when they were younger. I don't see any hands. You like that one? I mean, we all do silly
Yeah.
things, right?
I
Okay.
don't.
this
Yeah.
this here could happen to all walks of life, millionaires down to the homeless. So
Yes.
what
Yeah.
Stephen did was nothing to put a target on him. That's
Yes.
for sure.
No.
And guys, the reason why all of this is important, we all know, because later on, every one of these points were used against him.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Still,
Right.
some of them still are to this day.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
More of the mistreating of an animal than the burglary.
Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
I know.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Yes. That's why I'm so sick of hearing about the cats. Many of my friends will not watch the show because I told them up front about the cat because I didn't want them being pissed about the cat.
He
No,
is
he put 'em up, and they won't even watch it. They will not
Yeah.
even watch it because he killed the
That's
cat.
a pretty big downfall right there.
I'm
His
surprised Bully
mistake.
watched it. She must have not knew about the cat before she watched it.
Yeah.
But this also gives you a general idea, or even to this day, of the general populace and their opinions and their judgments of others. I mean, if they only knew some of these
Yeah.
kids that are not under their parents' thumb, the things that are going on, people are not watching, they're not looking. And that's just
My
part
my
of what you see
daughter,
here.
my daughter's being harshly judged about her son's behavior, and she
Yes.
works. She's taken a job at McDonald's to work and get by, because she can bring the kids to school and pick them up from school. It fit in
Yep.
her schedule, so she works there, and it's about as much as lifting 50-pound boxes of cheese. So why not?
Yeah.
And she says she works with all these people's teenagers that are giving her flack about her kid. And
Yeah.
she said if they only knew the half of, she's still young and kind of hip. So these teens all talk freely in front of her and tell her all
Yes.
the stuff they're out getting into while their parents are at home asleep at night and think they're in the next room asleep. And she said,
Yeah.
if they only knew, hey,
Yeah.
they,
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
like, they say things to me that just shock me even,
Yeah.
you know.
Yep. So it's the reality, isn't it?
Teens do that. Teens do
Teens are
that.
going to get into trouble. But the important thing, if we look at slide number 7, hey, he did get his life in order, didn't he? He
Yeah.
did do his
It's a big
best.
bite. It's a
Yeah,
big bite.
and look at 19, right? He
Yeah.
meant
And
a single mother.
Yep, she already had a kid. That's a lot for a 19-year-old boy to just,
Yes, it
you know.
is.
Yeah,
Some
that's phenomenal.
yes, some divorced 22-year-olds don't want to get involved in that. So, you know.
Yeah, that's amazing. Jeff, you want to make any comment?
No, I'm just agreeing with BB.
Yeah.
Yeah. Zoe, any comments?
Not really.
Okay. But as a young man at 19, he married a single mum. And I've got to give him a lot of kudos for that. He
Absolutely.
took on incredible responsibility, didn't he?
Well,
At such a young
he
age.
said himself.
he knew. Go ahead.
He said himself. She said the father didn't want nothing to do with the kid. He said, "That's all right. I'll take over."
Unbelievable. And really, doesn't that show the contrast in Stephen?
Yeah.
Isn't that incredible?
Absolutely. He's looking at some little kids going, you know what? They need somebody. I'm here. I care. I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And screw if they don't want to. Somebody has to. And I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you have a look at their house, it's a modest home, isn't it? It's nothing too fantasy. It looks like what type of home would that be? That's not a solid brick home. That's just wood boards.
Yeah.
It's what they call
a lot of the homes are here.
Site built stick home.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But remember this, back in those days, that was good to be, especially that young and be in that
they're not renting an
situation and have a
apartment.
home.
They're renting a house or buying one. I'm not sure which the case was, but at least renting a house.
Yeah.
And those kind of houses you find them both in the city and in rural areas, small farmhouses, small grandmother's houses at the farm or whatever. Yeah.
So it's likely that his house was on a farm or somebody's land or something like that.
They were in I think it's Mischief at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not on Avery Salvage Yard.
No. So was Laurie older than Stephen?
I think a year, I want to say.
Right. Okay.
Older.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay. All right. Well, if we progress to slide 8, isn't that beautiful?
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that?
We know
Of
what their
course,
hobby was.
yeah. I mean, look at that. He's a young
He
man.
looks so happy. I mean,
He
even
does.
look at all those kids, and at his
Yes.
age, that's cool. I mean, really, come on.
Well, and everybody
Yep.
said how after the twins were born, he felt very special and blessed and lucky and happy.
Yes.
How happy he was over the moon.
He
Yes.
looks like it. And even with 2 new babies, look at that. I mean,
Yep.
look at him in the picture. He's like over the moon.
Yep. So
there's 5 children there. Only the twins are his. I don't know the answer to that.
No. They're all his except for the oldest boy.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So he had 4 children with Laurie.
So he married her. She had the oldest boy. They had a daughter. They had another daughter, and then they had twin boys.
Wow. Have you guys actually seen the YouTube clip where they actually talk for the very first time to his sons, his twin sons?
Yeah.
And isn't it so sad that they don't want anything to do with the father? Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, they
It
also
broke my
have.
heart.
They
for
had.
Avery.
I don't think it's active anymore, but they had their own little support page, the twins.
Yeah.
They never knew him, so it's much more impactful to a father who's longing for their children than the children who've never been able to visit their father. You almost can't blame them for never, somebody you never knew not having an affection for.
Yes. Now, as you can see, guys, on the bottom of the slide 8, this is where his life does a 180, and I'll read it out for our audience. While Stephen is out on bail, awaiting trial in the Sandra Morris case, his wife, Laurie, gives birth to 2 twin boys. So, guys, are we happy to progress to the next slide?
Yes.
Number 9. Who would like to tell me about Sandra Morris?
She's Stephen's cousin.
Okay, so this is a cousin of Stephen.
Yes.
Yep. Got anything else?
She's married to the deputy William Morris.
Yeah, right. So her husband is law enforcement.
I believe she's also Stephen's neighbor. Not next door neighbor, but
in Mischief,
in the same neighborhood. Mischief, yeah. Yep.
All right. So, guys, what was the problem with Sandra? What actually happened? It says here that she was spreading rumors. What type of rumors was she spreading?
She claimed Stephen was having sex with his wife in the front yard, for example.
Or that he was out masturbating on her, the hood of her car, or some, I don't know, some crap like that.
Actually, that he ran out to the street and was masturbating with. She did a hand gesture, which would mean he had a very long member, and she.
And she retracted that when it came to the trial.
At 40 miles an hour during winter, he's supposed to be outside with an erection, in the cold. And from what I've heard, it doesn't work that way, but whatever.
Big Jeff, you want to make a comment on that?
No,
Tony says it doesn't get cold enough by him.
No emphasis on the big, right, Big Jeff?
Maybe not.
Okay, now that I've managed to take this straight down to the gutter.
Yes.
Yeah, she reports him as doing an impossible deed during winter. It's ludicrous. It's just ludicrous.
Okay. Yeah.
And she's supposed to be going 40 miles an hour watching the road because it's cold.
Yeah.
But yet she's seeing the show.
Yeah, and apparently we're talking about 4:45 in the morning.
Oh yeah, it's dark still, and she said that he had it timed out so that he could run out and do that. So he was waiting in the wings beforehand, warming up, I guess.
Yeah. All right. So she was basically spreading rumors around the taverns, wherever she lived, and of course, Stephen, during an interview, said all people used to come up to him and accused him and asked him, "What are you doing all these things for?" And he felt pretty bad. I mean, you're a young dad, you got a wife, you got little kids, and your name is basically being dragged through the mud. Would anyone like to comment on how he reacted to those rumors? What did he do?
I'll make a comment that I've met people in my life who are extremely hypersensitive about what you might call, largely your reputation. And if somebody is talking about them, even not saying things to the level that Sandra Morris was saying about Stephen, extremely agitated by that. Now, that is not to excuse Stephen's reaction to that. But I've met people who are so hypersensitive, it's not surprising that you can find an individual who reacted like Stephen, not to excuse what he did, because he served time for what he did and he deserved to serve time for what he did.
Yes.
But it doesn't surprise me that he could be driven to that level of anger. It's not excusable in my mind, but
Sammy, you want to make any comments?
Actually, I do. I wanted to say I am probably the oldest of about 150 cousins, and I'm serious. And majority of my aunts and uncles, the least amount of children any one of them couples had was maybe 4 to 6. I'm the oldest of 7, and let me tell you, as the oldest, I had to always be neutral, and you're going to find, first of all, you'll have 1 or 2 in a bunch that are the catalyst for things, and they overemphasize any little thing that happens, especially if it happens to them, and they will finger the other cousins that they like the least when it comes down to it, every chance they get. And I kind of dub them the drama queens or whatever. And it could be boys and girls alike. But then you have someone like Stephen, who's their reaction, because they are family, is they're going to bulldog somebody and go put them in the corner and go, "Look, you son of a B, you're talking crap and I don't like it. And it needs to stop," because this is their mentality. Maybe they don't know how else to put a stop to it, because you got this person running their dang mouth, and they're overemphasizing every situation, every chance they get. So that's kind of what I've borne witness to in my years, when we were young, over the cousins thing. And I see this as being, she's sort of opportunistic in the sense that she has the ability to, everybody's going to talk to her. I mean, look who she's married to. She's a member of society that people are listening to and looking at. And she's going, guess what? And of course, being any kind of connection with law enforcement gives her the upper hand on credibility in any given situation she's gossiping about. But that's my opinion there.
Very, very good point. Jeff, what do you think about that? Oh, sorry.
No, that's all right. Go ahead, Jeff.
Sammy's absolutely right. I wouldn't be surprised if there is genuine animosity between the two, and if some of their spats, if you will, hadn't been taken to an out of control level in the past, and if there isn't some ring of truth to the animosity between them. I don't know. Of course, I wasn't there, so I can't speak to anything regarding any of these more outrageous.
Maybe she was harboring feelings from when they were younger.
Yeah, I don't know, but we all agree, guys, what Stephen did was completely wrong, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think he went about it wrong way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to me, that's where the IQ comes in. The emotional IQ.
The mentality. Yeah.
And it had been this had not been just 1 or 2 incidences with her. This had been a lifelong thing, because
I think so.
Stephen's dad said she was always picking on him.
And her husband too. Apparently her husband as well. Were always picking on Stephen. And to his mentality, that's what he thought was the right thing to do. I.e., I'm going to make a point. I'm going to make a strong point. I want you to stop it. I want you to stop it now.
Exactly.
Except, of course, if we go to slide 10, we can see what the immediate problem is, right, guys? It's who Sandra was married to or is married to.
Right.
Right.
A deputy in the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department. And guys, I think this was the beginning of the end for Stephen. What do you guys think
Exactly.
about that
Oh,
comment?
I've said that all
Totally
along.
agree. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that there was a hunger there to really nail him, period. I think that
She hated him. Hated him.
Yeah, and I think this was the period of time where it intensified to the degree that even if it meant she lied to someone, she didn't give a damn. Excuse me.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Now,
Well, to embellish her little.
yes.
Yeah.
Do you think Sandra, being his cousin, could have settled this in another way?
Of course. She was obviously not mature herself, maybe not of a high IQ either, because it seems
And
to
she
run
was a
in
barfly.
families. And,
She was a
drunk.
barfly.
Yes.
That kind of tells you right there a little bit of where her mentality is.
Yeah.
It's not clear to me that she was, poking the bear, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Yes.
She was just going around complaining about, not necessarily trying to elicit a reaction from him, just complaining to everybody how she didn't like him and
trashing him to everyone that will listen.
But she was not necessarily trying to evoke a reaction out of him per se. She got one.
I think too many people gave her credibility to the degree that she felt like everything she said was important, and at some point the embellishments would come out. And I'm sorry, but family are going to deal with family in different ways than they would the general public. I don't think if that would have been someone else that Stephen would have ever treated someone outside of his family circle, no matter how distant she might be in that family circle. And I don't think he would have treated them the same way, because with family, it's like, I think I can see where, he's treating her. If she would have done that to him, he would have been like, oh, okay, all right,
That's
got
right.
it.
Yeah, he would have
go
brushed,
back in the house.
it off.
Yeah.
He would have brushed it off. And
also,
sorry, Jeff.
Stephen's unlucky break number one here is that Sandra Morris's child is in the car when this all happens.
Yes,
amplifying the intensity.
And what was the age of that child at that time?
Oh, like
under
2,
5.
maybe.
Yeah, young, very young.
I think like 2. I want to say.
And
as soon when he realized the kid was in the car.
That's right. He backed off. He backed off immediately. Backed off when he knew that her child was there.
I have only heard that by people talking. I have never come across. Is that in any paperwork anywhere?
I think there is.
Yeah. There's when she fills out the report with the sheriff, she tells the story about how the kid was in the car and she pointed at the blanket, and he agreed. And she said, "You need to follow me to my mom's house to drop the kid off, and then I'll go with you if you want," which she had no intention of doing, but she said that to de-escalate the situation. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So she could verify there was actually a kid in the car, and she wasn't just saying that.
No. I think Stephen saw the child and backed off.
Okay.
Immediately backed off.
Because they didn't say that in the program.
No, it's in the police report. You have to. Yes, you have to be into the files and be reading the old files, and to find.
I read a lot of stuff, but
he saw the child and he backed off. Good.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been all over those papers from back then. Yeah.
The other comment I like to make is that when they wrote up the report, they actually made the report sounded more malicious than what it actually was.
Well,
and they actually had loaded gun, and then they crossed out the loaded because the
Eh,
gun wasn't
Yeah.
loaded. There was no ammunition in it.
Well, yeah, in one report, it's still in there that there was, when it
Mhm.
was in the gun case, that
Yep.
it was loaded.
Well, you
Um,
understand something though, in any kind of training, when it comes to weapons, what do? You always consider them loaded. So I get
Correct.
that part in a
and
sense. I
Correct.
get it.
and he was bad. He hid it under his sleeping children's
Yes,
bed.
that's
Yeah,
exactly right. Exactly right.
yeah,
But they interviewed him at Manitowoc, and he was matter of fact. He admitted to everything, and the reason why he did it was because he was upset that his cousin was spreading rumors about him and his wife. And
yes.
in his mind and his mentality, he thought he thought that that was the right thing to do. But guys, would you agree that this has now caused a rift between those two families, between the
Oh yeah.
cousins?
Well, yes,
Like,
and it also has caused a rift with him and the police, because the Brotherhood of the
yep,
Police, the Thin Blue Line, all
yep.
that stuff.
hmm
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
So now, guys, we're talking about 1985, right? We're talking
yeah,
1984, 1985. We're talking a long time ago, and these currents would come back to haunt him, correct?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's why I
same
believe that.
players, same players.
Yeah, that's why I believe this podcast is so important to set the stage, because later on we can understand the motive and motivation of certain individuals. Guys, are we all on the same page on that one?
Oh yeah,
Yes.
just to
Yeah.
crisp up the timeline a little bit. I think in that previous picture that we showed, where where he's with his family, so that picture was taken when he was out on bail. He was out on bail
hmm
for the episode that
Correct.
we're just talking about right now, right?
Correct.
Because he was
Correct.
arrested. He was
Correct.
arrested.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
When the
And,
Penny
and an act,
Bernstein happened, yes.
yes.
Right,
And
and
in actual
is it?
fact, sorry,
And then
Jeff.
they joined the cases.
Yeah,
Yes.
isn't it also very convenient that Sandra Morris starts talking about sexual stuff, violence against women stuff,
Yes.
to
Yes.
Penny Bernstein? So
Yes, which is what we're going to have a look in a sec. But if we have a look at slide 11, you can see that his life's changed, completely changed. I'll read it out. Stephen is charged with endangering safety, regardless of life, and felon in possession of a firearm. He was already in big, big trouble.
Yep.
And it's interesting that when he was put in prison, awaiting bail and things like that, he missed the birth of, I think, one or two of his children. I
The
can't
first
remember
one,
which.
the first
Yeah.
daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, he was in prison and he actually missed the birth of his child.
Yes, that was
young
over the
Robert.
cat. That was
Yeah.
over the cat.
Yeah, that's correct. And if we have a look at slide 12, you can see that he was going to know the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department very well, and they were going to know him very well. So, just to summarize, guys, we can see how his low IQ, his attitude, his environment which he grew up, the way he tried to solve problems, got him into a lot of trouble.
Yep.
Guys, do we all agree?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
yes.
All right. So now in the podcast, guys, we've really finished having a look at the Sandra Morris case. Now, guys, we've pretty close to an hour. What would you guys like to do? You want to have a look at the Penny Bernstein, or do we call it a night tonight? How would you like to go?
It's entirely up to you all.
I think we should talk about Penny. I think people want to hear about Penny.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. So
we might want to break it up into a part two.
Yeah. No hassles. No hassles.
Yeah.
So if we have a look at slide 13, we can see you can see the Bernstein family. Again, fine outstanding citizens. Again, members of the community, very important members of the community. Would you say that they are the complete contrast of the Avery family?
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, although they're both business owners.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, they are. But in terms of their demeanor, their dress sense, their presentation, would you say that there's a slight contrast in them?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
100-fold.
Yeah,
They're
there's a big
engaged in the
difference.
community, more so from their community engagement perspective. I think he was a local coach of teams. They donated money to
Yes,
support locals.
He did
youth
something at the
sports.
YMCA. Yeah.
yes, he did. He
I
did.
would
He
Mhm.
did.
say probably because they own their own candy business.
Yes,
Was it her father or something? But anyways,
I
I think
believe
it's
so. Yeah.
because the last name.
probably made kind of the same amount of money, but because they chose different lifestyles,
Yes.
it
Yes.
contrast.
Yes, there's an extreme contrast between these two families. Now, we all know what happened in this situation, that Penny was running along the beach at Lake Michigan, and she was brutally attacked and sexually assaulted. And I make no apologies for slide 14. They're terrible pictures, but these are the type of images that the jury saw, the judge
Yeah.
saw later on in the trial. And you compare to the picture beforehand how beautiful Penny looked like, and then you compare that with this. This is a savage, brutal attack. Guys, we all agree, right?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Oh yeah, clearly
Absolutely.
attacked. Yeah.
There's no question about it. Now, something unbelievable happened. And if we have a look at slide number 15, when Deputy Judy Dvorak went to the hospital to interview a Penny about the attack. Now,
And she happened to be
remember,
her good friend. She happened to be a
yep,
friend of hers. Yeah.
No,
yes,
it's
yes,
Sandra's Morris friend.
she
She's
is a
hers
friend to
too.
Sandra
She's her
Morris.
friend too. Yeah.
She's a friend
Friend
to
of both
Sandra
women.
Morris.
Yeah.
Now, as a deputy, you need to keep a neutral stance when you're taking down a deposition, right? You're not really meant to make comments and suggestions. She said to
No
her,
assumptions.
Well, she shouldn't have publicly. She shouldn't have to her. But I'm
yep,
sure they do. It's like office talk with us,
yes,
I'm
yes,
sure that back at the thing, at the office, they're like, then, oh, look, it's
yep,
probably him. No, I think it's this guy's MO,
yep.
Yeah.
Well, she said that sounds like Stephen Avery.
Yeah.
Now,
To the
remember,
witness. Yeah.
yeah,
To the victim.
now remember, he's just been done for Sandra Morris, right?
And the
Mhm.
funny thing is, the description did not sound anything like him.
No, it didn't. It
His
didn't.
eyes were the
Starting
wrong
with his
color.
So for
height.
her to say that sounds like Stephen Avery is complete contrived bullshit right there. Oh, yeah, sorry.
That's
Yeah.
all right. That's all right. We're permitted to cuss on the podcast. But the amazing thing, it goes to show that it's a terrible situation whereby someone has been savagely attacked and beaten. But the victim is trying to make sense of all what's happened, and she's got an idea in her mind about what her attacker looked
I think
like.
she's an opportunist. I think she's an opportunist.
You're not
Which
talking
one?
about Sandra.
Deborah, yeah. I
Deb-
think she's
Dvorak,
Dvorak.
okay.
a pot
Yeah.
stirrer and an opportunist. Did she seem to use a crime against one friend of hers to benefit another friend of hers?
Yep.
I mean, is it a good time to go over some of the things that Penny said about Stephen? We mentioned a couple of them, but we didn't get them all.
Yeah.
There's the height.
Well,
The height,
yeah,
the eye color.
yeah,
Later,
Docky.
yeah, yeah.
The fact that she described the color of his underwear and Stephen doesn't wear underwear.
I didn't even own a pair. Didn't even own a pair.
Correct. And
They said stocky.
Yeah.
Sandy hair. The sandy hair is the only thing.
The eye color. She was positive
Yeah.
his eyes were brown, right?
Yeah, yeah. And the fact that the guy wore a jacket, a leather jacket, and Stephen doesn't own that type of apparel. And so the descriptions were very different. But if you're in a highly agitated state and you've just been assaulted and you've got a deputy whispering in your ear, that sounds like Stephen Avery, you're probably going to remember that name, right? And if we have a look at if we have a look at slide 16, you can see, as you guys have already said, Judy was a close friend with Sandra Morris. Sandra Morris was is Stephen Avery's cousin. Stephen Avery ran her off the road, right? He was arrested for that crime, right? And have a look, his uncle is in the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department, Ireland. And he knew what was going on because he said during the interview, Judy Dvorak definitely didn't like Stephen. So now you've got this incredible loop of individuals all pointing the finger to Stephen Avery.
And they're all connected to each other in one and two ways.
Yes. And the amazing thing is, as you guys have already pointed out, if we look at slide number 17, that poor lady, Penny, was not able to read the statement. So she couldn't actually go through the statement. And Judy Dvorak said to Penny to actually sign the document. So even though this poor lady could not read her own statement, Judy made her sign it. And it's incredible.
Because of
they wait a day or two till she could read it?
They didn't want
time was precious.
That's why, yeah.
Now
it would not work to their advantage. She's
exactly.
It's
she's an
basically
opportunist.
Strike while the iron is hot.
Yep,
that's right.
Because with Judy, she would have had it would have been fresh in her mind about the attack, the so-called attack on Sandra. And when Penny made the description of the attacker, Judy obviously said, wow, that sounds like Stephen Avery. And what is remarkable is that during her deposition, she got amnesia. Have you all seen her deposition? She couldn't remember a thing and said, they're not my words. I never meant to say it in that particular fashion. And also Sandra Morris recanted half the stuff that she said. I never said that. I never said that. So it's amazing that when they're deposed, they all have amnesia. Isn't that remarkable?
They forgot how much bullshit they had.
It's very convenient.
Yeah.
Correct.
Now that you're getting sued for something.
Yes. Amazing. So guys, let's look at a very interesting character on slide 18. And that's Jean Couchet.
Yeah, now, Jean the pencil. Couchet.
Guys, would anyone like to make a comment on our good friend Jean? What
Let
did
me
he
say
do?
something real quick. He's made this drawing, right?
Yes.
He's a tracer.
One more time, BB. I don't think that came through for me.
He's a tracer.
Yeah, tracer.
Well, it's funny because he's not normally their sketch artist. This was
That's
like
his first one.
His first composite.
First and only.
And
right?
Yes.
It's
Suitable
amazing
of being
how
framed.
It does not look like the present day Stephen that raped or quote unquote raped Penny, but it looks like a picture from months ago when he got
Sandra
busted
Morris.
for Sandra.
No, it's a Sandra. It's a Sandra one. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So
And
essentially,
they lined it up beautifully in Making a Murderer episode 1. I've
yeah,
lined it,
yeah.
and
I've
they
actually,
fade in and out perfectly. So there is
yeah,
no way that
yeah.
that was not Trace. He
That's
traced
completely
that.
traced. So, guys, what we have here is the beginning of a conspiracy. Would you agree?
Yes.
I think so. Absolutely.
Even
So,
even Arland Avery said that he was told by other detectives that at that point they got a photograph of Stephen from the old jail records, and they
yep.
brought it down, and the chief deputy Eugene Cush made
hmm
a composite drawing of that photograph rather than doing it from her Penny's memory.
Yeah, and then they
Correct.
showed her the composite and said, "This is
Correct.
what you described to us," and she said, "Yep, that's him."
Correct. Well, anyway,
If you look at
when
that
they,
picture, to me, that could be a picture of the department store Santa Claus that
Yes.
my,
yeah,
and my kids
Yeah.
have sat
yeah,
in the,
Yeah, and
yeah,
that nose is a horrible trace job, even.
yeah. It's clear. It's
Yeah.
clear. It's clear that's his only trace ever, and he's never going to do another one again. But of
But it
course,
was
if we look
suitable
at,
for framing.
no
For
question.
framing. Haha. For
Literally,
framing.
like in
Yep,
many
literally.
aspects.
Now, when they presented that picture to him during his deposition, don't you
Oh
find it
my
rather
God, he was so
amazing?
proud. He was
He
so proud.
he
Still.
he almost did a high five. He was
Yes.
so happy that that we got him. We got this guy, right? His picture helped frame Stephen Avery, and he's so proud of his picture that he's got it framed in his house.
They're all opportunists. Dvorak seen a
Correct.
little window. She used it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
He seen Dvorak pointed out the window to him. He
Yes.
used it.
Yes.
In the beginning here, they're just using these little windows, I believe, to at least get him charged. Maybe they didn't think that they could actually nail him for it, but
Yes.
I think their goal was to at least get him charged, to send him that message of, we can mess you up, buddy.
I
They-
also think that there
Yeah.
is, not only in Manitowoc but elsewhere, there's some type of group psychosis that goes along.
Yeah.
That's we let's call it we got the right guy syndrome.
Yes.
And you probably have to have some level of that when you're in that job. If you're going to take somebody's freedom away, you have to
Yeah.
have some level
But
of
it
confidence.
also,
Find a
yeah.
way to live with it with yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But
And
it also
even
goes.
even
A form of playing God.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that you've done the right thing, because he even denied during that. He said, "Well, I don't know how that hair got in there. Hairs can be planted." He
That's
was
right.
convinced. In my mind, his conviction.
I was just going to say, when they show in Mam 1, okay, and this,
Mhm.
I want to say maybe around about episode 2, they give this little recording of part of this trial that was going on about the drawing that Eugene did.
Yes.
And they were trying to say, this really, is there really evidence here and whatnot? Well, at some point he's asked if he'd seen any ever fabricated evidence. And he said
Yeah.
right away, immediately, yes, and then turned around and said, I don't know. I'm telling
Yeah.
you right now, that right there was like, holy crap, how did I miss that the first time I watched?
Well, he
Because
actually
he
said.
openly
Yeah.
said yes
Yeah.
to
And
that.
you know what he said? He said that DNA evidence can be fabricated.
And where did
Oh
it
my
come from?
God.
That's
Oh
right.
my God! And that is
I know.
so chilling.
Oh,
And that's
yeah.
what
Yeah.
and the investigator said to him, "Are you trying to say that your picture has more weight than DNA evidence?" And he goes, "Yep." He had no.
Yeah, I know. He
He
was
had
so
no,
proud of
so
himself.
so did he actually do a Freudian slip about the DNA evidence being fabricated?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's
Oh,
right
yeah,
at
he's
the
lit.
top.
Yeah.
Did he actually
yeah.
let the cat out of the bag?
He did.
Yeah.
So.
In my book.
And boy, we're finding it out more and more every day.
Yeah, correct.
The more we've looked into that lab, the more we see huge.
That's a great
huge
insight. Actually,
avenues for where this can all go horribly wrong on somebody.
Correct. So
Yeah.
it goes to
One
show
wrong person in the wrong place, and you're screwed.
Well, it shows the asymmetric power that law enforcement have over people in the community, because they have the
and
ability.
the one lawyer
Yes.
says, if you read him trying to get out on that hair, and if you read the rebuttals to that you will clearly see the system is not stacked for getting you out if you're
No,
wrongfully
it's to
it
keep
is
you in.
stacked for
Just keep you
keeping
in.
you in. Once they've got
Correct.
you can't
Correct.
escape, kind of.
Correct.
It's so thin.
Yep, you
Yes.
betcha. So if you have a look at picture number 19, you can see if Penny had a look at that picture and then Penny have a look at the lineup, well, then it's going to be pretty obvious who she's going to pick, right?
I don't know. I think I'd have picked 7 there. I think
Yeah,
7 looks
he looks pretty
quite
close,
a bit like the sketch too.
Yes,
Maybe his hair
yes.
color's off, but
that could
yeah,
well
but-
be.
yeah.
That could well be. But if we examine picture number
But
20,
7 fits what she described better, other than maybe
Yes.
sandy hair, I think.
Yes.
And
Yep. If you look at picture number 20, slide number 20, you can see that the shenanigans were being played. So he obviously did the sketch from the first time he got arrested in the Sandra Morris case. And you look how Stephen looks different when he was arrested for the Penny Bernstein rape. Now, there's no way.
I still have the sliders that I had made of both these, the mug
Yes.
shots, with them sliding in and out. And
Yep.
you could that's why I say it's a trace job, because you could clearly see it was traced off. It
Yes.
doesn't match how he looked at the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. So I think the evidence is pretty clear that he was being set up. Guys, would you agree or disagree? What do you think, Lily?
Oh, huge setup. Sandra had issues, and she brought it to people who helped cement his fate.
Yep.
So we now know who perpetrated the crime against Penny Bernstein, Gregory Allen.
Yes, we do.
And if I'm not mistaken, Gregory Allen was under surveillance, where they were checking on him multiple times per day. And if I'm also not mistaken,
17 times a day.
Sir actually lied about his whereabouts on the day. He said he was somewhere else.
Yes.
Yeah, a different town or something. Yeah.
Right. So when you talk about the setup went very deep. That they actually lied about Gregory Allen's whereabouts to make it more,
Correct.
Sexual predator, right? So.
Is that not criminal?
Yeah.
To cover for Allen, so they could nail Stephen.
Yes.
For it.
Yep.
Yes. So can we see how the misdemeanor with his cousin Sandra, who was married to William Morris, part of the Manitowoc County.
That was a felon. That was a felony because of the firearm, I do believe.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And then the association of Judy, who was a friend of Sandra, did Judy also know Penny?
I'm pretty sure they said yes. I'm pretty sure they said that she was also friends with Penny.
Yeah, and then we've got Couchet,
if she was friends with her, she probably said, let me go to the hospital and question her because I know her.
Correct. So if we look at slide 21, and guys, I reckon we'll do a couple more and we'll call it quits because we can easily do it.
It's late for you, yeah.
Yeah, it is getting a little bit late, but
it's our coffee time, your late night time.
Yes, if we have a look at slide 21, this says it all. He's the sheriff, Kucerik, and look what Stephen Avery said during an interview. The sheriff told me, "I got you now," when I got to jail.
Yeah.
What is that? Guys, does anyone want to make a comment about that?
What needs to be said, really?
Yeah. So would you guys agree, this now became personal?
Yes.
Absolutely.
This is not a law enforcement branch looking at a crime. This is the personal involvement of the sheriff to nail Stephen Avery for this crime, and it's a heinous crime.
And the police, the Manitowoc City Police, even went and had a meeting with whichever one to tell him, look, I think you got this wrong. I think it's this guy. Alan, look, are you aware of this, Alan? Look,
Yes.
look at, they pointed it right out before it went to trial.
Yes.
That they were wrong. That, look at it's clearly Alan. He tried to tell him.
Yeah. There's no question. So I reckon, guys, if we can almost finish it here, because the next phase is his court appearance and all the background with Gregory Allen and how that all fitted in together. I reckon this is probably a good place to leave it, because we've, if we have a look at the podcast, we've covered Stephen's early life. We've had a look at his family, what his family business does, where he lives. We've had a look at his misdemeanors and petty crimes that he's committed as a teenager. He paid the price. He didn't complain. We investigated his marriage, that he was willing to go with a single mum, and they had 5 children. And then,
ironically enough, it's slide 21, and I think we're at about that age for him.
Unbelievable.
Cool.
Then we had a look at what happened with his cousin, Sandra Morris, and the fact that she was married to Deputy William Morris, and that things got really, really bad when they tried to pin the rape and sexual assault of Penny onto Stephen as well. So in effect, they were able to do a 2-for-1 and wrap him up and put him in prison for a very long period of time. Now, guys, would you agree that that would send a strong statement to the Avery family?
Yeah, very strong.
Probably so.
Yeah.
Well, and they all knew.
It's almost like they're drawing the line in the sand.
They all
Sandra
knew
Morris.
he had how many witnesses for his whereabouts? He had
16.
Between 16 and 22.
Non-family, isn't it? I think.
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
Or
that's
11
correct.
non-family, and yeah.
Correct.
And he had the receipt from the grocery, from the whole store, or Menards, or wherever he had been.
We'll talk about all of that in part 2. But so guys, before we close the podcast, is there any other comments that you guys would like to make? Should we just go around the table? BB, you want to make any comment? How do you think the podcast went so far?
I think it's good. Yeah. Yeah. We've been like almost 2 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. Unbelievable. What about you, Big Jeff?
The only thing I'd like to say is about the pod. I think it's run very well, very smoothly. I think maybe some of the guilters, if we do get some guilters listen to this podcast, they may say that we have a little bit whitewashed the character of Stephen Avery. And I've heard guilters say, for example, would you want Stephen Avery living next door to you? And, I'd have to agree with the guilter that I would not be happy if he moved in next to me. But
look,
that is not a reason to put somebody in jail, frame him. I'm not on board with, okay, well, he's a scumbag anyway. He's better off in jail, or society's better off if he's in jail.
Yes.
That I want to live.
Yeah, no.
I agree fully. But here's my take of recent. I used to feel the exact same way, but of recent, since those tapes up came out of Steve talking to Jody in jail, and the
Yeah.
way he doesn't want weed in his house.
No.
He's on Barb about her kids. He's like looking out for all his family, like making up for lost time, looking out for them. So, he kind of got an upgrade with me and where I had placed him, because everybody does. They place people on a ladder,
Yep. I remember,
and I had
guys. Yep.
maybe on the next block. I don't care,
But remember, he's also a victim of circumstances as well.
Right.
Right.
Like I said, I've lived next door to people very much like him,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My only point is that I just disagree that he has done some negative things and is not the highest member of society. But that is not a good enough reason to perpetrate.
No, and don't forget, he didn't live in the suburbs. He
No, he lived up by
on
himself,
a salvage yard. So
surrounded by a quarry, surrounded by a highway, surrounded by
exactly
farmland.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. So he's not in the middle of suburbia where he's playing his stereo at full blast at 2 a.m. He's on a salvage yard, and he's got a different type of upbringing, different type of mentality. But on the same token, he did wrong, and he paid the price. And he never complained. He never complained once. But clearly, with the Penny Bernstein, something drastically wrong happened. And that's what we'll talk about in part 2. Lily, how do you think the podcast went so far?
I think it went very well. Not too much more to cover in the basic background. He didn't have a chance.
Yeah.
He didn't have a chance.
But do you feel that you now know Stephen a little bit better than what you did before?
I think it's much more clear and solidified instead of having a piece here and a piece there. The puzzle can kind of come together a bit. Yes.
Yeah. What we did is we did it in chronological order.
Yes.
And you can see the progression. As soon as he became part of the system, that's when things went really bad for him. Sammy, what did you think of the podcast so far?
I like it. I think it's accurate, and we did cover his flaws, that as he was younger, he did make bad decisions. We're all very aware of that. All in all, I want to ask people, even guilters, how many Stephen Averys are living next to you that you have not reached out to say, hey, look, dude, or whatever, this is not how we act, and you better straighten up and fly right. Okay, that's just a societal thing. They were considered lower middle class, even owning a business. I think Sandra Morrison had a desire to see law enforcement jerk a knot in his ass. I think that she was getting satisfaction from seeing him go down with help of her very good friend, Judy.
Yep. Excellent. Zoe, what did you think of the podcast so far?
I think it was great. And now you tell us what you think of the podcast.
Well, to tell you the truth, it's amazing what happens when you slow things down and you go over MAM again. Episode 1 and 2 are absolutely jam-packed with information. Every few seconds, there's a factoid, right? But while facts are good, they're not really that important until you make a story out of them. And what we've done is we've done a chronology. So we can actually see how he got in the limelight of law enforcement. And to tell you the truth, he never left. Isn't that true? He has never left. As soon as
Yep.
he got in trouble with Sandra Morris, from the age of 19 or 20 to now at 57, he's always been in the system. And that is remarkable. He spent most of his life locked up in a cell.
Yes.
Model prisoner as well.
Yeah,
Yep.
and we've seen the origins and the seeds of what was to come later with Teresa Halbach. And that's why I believe that it's important that people listening to the podcast can understand the genesis of where all that hatred and personal vendetta came from. Oh, it's been around since 1985. So,
Yeah, I mean, we don't have the real reason why Sandra hated him. She just did. It just was.
yes,
And that
I think
was the
it stems from
switchboard.
childhood.
Yeah,
I do too. I do too,
Yeah,
because I've
it was-
noticed amongst all of my cousins that you've got a few that absolutely do despise one another for whatever reason. And it could have started over a Matchbox car when they were toddlers. Who knows?
exactly. Yep.
And then from there, that grows. That
Some
digs in
people
their
hold
claw about
grudges.
that person just grow. Yeah.
Yep.
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 And I suppose, guys, in a closing comment, the reason for doing this is that all of us and our families can be the next Stephen Avery, if you know what I'm trying to get at.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
can get into trouble very,
what
very quickly.
what they do to the least of us, they can do to the rest.
Correct. Good point. Okay, guys, are we happy to wrap up podcast number
Yeah,
one?
I
Yes.
just like to say I'm really happy to be here right now, and that we're here
Beautiful.
talking case
Beautiful.
together.
Yep.
Yes.
Beautiful. I think I've got a lot of energy and enthusiasm and passion back. And I think by doing this, we can educate a lot of people. We're not making any outlandish claims or nothing. We're presenting the facts. The facts by the
Just
people
the facts.
involved, in the case. And boy, I just want to finish by saying that the producers of Man 1 and 2, they deserve a gold star for
Oh,
what they
yes.
did. No wonder it took them.
Absolutely.
No wonder it
Yes.
took them 10 years to do, because
Yes.
it's phenomenal the amount of work they put into that.
Well, look at how many
Unbelievable.
people all over the world it's drawn.
Yes.
Yeah, like us.
Yes.
Like us.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yes.
All right, guys. I'd like to thank you all, and hopefully we'll be able to continue our podcast soon. Thank you, guys.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Bye
Okay.
now.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.